What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker.
Amir Rahimi.
And today on The Great Debaters, getting into one of the best albums of all time, man. The Great Adventures of Slick Rick by Slick Rick. Get ready. Alright, Amir. So today on The Great Debaters, we are looking at The Great Adventures of Slick Rick. One of easily the best rap albums, the best story-driven albums, the best everything albums ever made in rap history.
Yep.
And we're going to pick our best 3 songs on this album, which is extremely tough, even though there's only 12 songs. So I just fortunately, I've got the chance to interview Slick Rick several times over the years and hang out with him multiple times over the years and talk to him in depth multiple times over the years. So I've been very fortunate, and this album is just astonishing. And it's also, when I was a little kid, the show maybe was my favorite song until for several years. And for that reason alone, I'm glad we're doing this video, because this show is just
So good.
astonishingly brilliant and very early on in the game. And I just love that song, and it's just phenomenal. But, Amir, this came out in 1988, the best year in rap history, and it's Slick Rick's debut album. And what were your first thoughts upon hearing this magnificent piece of music?
I remember being introduced to this from Snoop Dogg, and I was introduced to this because, as I've stated before, I was listening to a lot of NWA and NWA affiliate acts, and I had like a lot of NWA music, and one of those albums was like one of the NWA legacies. And on those, it had Snoop songs, and I'd obviously known Snoop through that, and through Doggy Style was one of my earliest ones. But I remember back, and I mentioned this before, on those top lists we had from VH1 and MTV, Snoop was hosting either a segment or he was hosting the whole show. He was probably just hosting a segment though, and he was talking about how his favorite rapper at the time was Slick Rick. And then he had announced Children's Story was one of his favorite songs. So then it reeled into the music video for Children's Story. And then that was my introduction to Slick Rick. And then that's shortly thereafter I picked up Great Adventures of Slick Rick. And I was just, wow, this is such a great album. But watching that video, it really shocked me, because I thought it was very weird how it had that guy in the bed with the 2 kids, and then the music video was very cool with, and this is just one of my picks, by the way, the Children's Story, which also I didn't know till way later was produced by Slick Rick. Right. So that was just dope to know that fact. But man, just
and the video version is different musically.
Exactly, and
than the album version.
That's exactly so. That, I like when artists do that too. Sometimes I was annoyed because then I picked up the album.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
I liked it a little bit in some cases, and in other cases I didn't, because I was expecting the one I heard in the music video. I assume in the 80s and 90s it was much more annoying because you didn't have the internet and all that to kind of find out before. But Children's Story,
or to even get it, because sometimes they didn't even release them.
It's true.
The different version.
Yeah.
But anyway.
No, but I mean, really what hasn't been said about the song, the storytelling, how influential it is over the years. We have people like Outkast, people like, obviously, Nas very recently on the Cop Shot the Kid song, where he samples the Cop Shot the Kid, throughout the entire song, basically.
Right.
So this song, its influence, and the album, its influence is huge, but this song was really my introduction to Slick Rick, and I bought the album, and let's say, I'm very happy I did, because it still remains one of my favorite albums of all time. It's so good.
Yeah, and I love the fact that, like Paid in Full, this is a 1-verse song, and for it to be a single and be a 1-verse song is extremely unusual. So that just let me know creatively, these are not things that I necessarily thought about as a little kid, But once I started listening to more and more and more music, I would notice these things like Paid in Full. Wait, that's one verse. Wait, Children's Story. Wait, that's just one verse. So it shows that you can be artistically different and reach the highest levels of not only creativity but popularity and do it in your own way. And that's something that I think shines throughout The Great Adventures of Slick Rick. And Children's Story is one of my picks as well. And it definitely shows, as we all know, Slick Rick as a supreme storyteller, but it really shows this in this cautionary way that we get in other songs on the album of The Great Adventures of Slick Rick. But this was one of those things where, you know, people always are like, oh man, they're preaching, they're corny, they're this, they're that. But when you look at it, a song like Children's Story, he's really telling you what's going on, and this is a bad thing to do. Don't go down this path. And Ice-T has done that brilliantly, as we just talked about with Ice-T Power, and Ice Cube has done it brilliantly throughout his career. Scarface, the greats do it, and they do it at the highest level, and Slick Rick clearly is one of them. And that's why I think Children's Story has been able to remain one of those songs that you still hear on a regular basis in 2020, and it came out in 1988, and that's because it's a phenomenal piece of music. So that's one of my picks. Also, what's your second pick, Amir?
So going into my next two picks, there's something that I wanted to mention, and to me it's very interesting that we have the singles with Children's Story, Teenage Love, Hey Young World. Those songs, and especially Hey Young World and Teenage Love, they're very, you know, whether it be a sad love song about, you know, teenagers, and that can apply to people of all ages, and then you get a song like Hey Young World, a little more uplifting and etc. Then it's like you would assume from those being the three singles that the majority or the whole album would probably be more on that length. And then you go in 1988 and you buy the album, and track one is Treat 'Em Like a Prostitute, and you got songs like Lick the Balls, and you got Indian Girl, and it's like, who is this guy? This wasn't the guy who was on TV with Children's Story and Teen. So I thought that was, when I heard that song or these songs, I was like, there is much more to Slick Rick's personality than I thought. And leading into my next pick, which is track one, is Treat 'Em Like a Prostitute. Fantastic. Just to track one, I just wonder what people were doing like in 88, and I don't know if they're looking at the track list before and they're like, huh, treat her like a prostitute, you know? It's like,
dude, when I first listened to it, I couldn't believe it, because I was coming off The Show and Teenage Love and Lottie Dottie. Lottie Dottie hinted a little bit at it,
true,
but nothing to the magnitude of what we hear with Treat Her Like a Prostitute. Well, that was also out before the album, but I was shocked, because I was like, well, he's not going to put that on the album. There's no way he put that on the album.
And he did front and center, so...
Clearly.
Dude, this song is so great. And he's basically kind of setting up why he's naming the song Treat 'Em Like a Prostitute. He's giving you a couple scenarios of a woman, you know, cheating on the man, one with the mailman, which was... a funny story.
Very vivid.
Very vivid. and honestly, just one of the most ridiculous lines in this. And also just, don't treat no really well until, just all that I think is very clever. Even before it's verse 1, verse 2. I think that's also very dope, the way the beat is. And then one of my favorite parts of the whole song is when in the last verse, the husband is, making love, right, to his wife, and then she calls him a different name, which is already weird, but then as he finishes, he notices there was another condom left in her, and then Slick Rick's like, I think it was left by a slick rapper named MC Ricky, and it's like, his voice, like the accents he does, just the whole performance is something just exceptional, and it's so funny that he's doing this, and like I said, there's no ad-libs, there's no one laughing, it's just straight up him, and it's just like, did I really just hear what I heard?
Right.
And you did, because it's genius. So Treat 'Em Like a Prostitute has to be one, man. It's just so hilarious and so clever.
That's not one of my picks, but it's of the top echelon of the album, of course.
Dude.
It's just, this album, Treat 'Em Like a Prostitute is just so shocking, and I love the song, but I'm going to go in a different direction where he's talking about a girl with Mona Lisa.
Okay.
Because Mona Lisa, man, I liked the story of it and how he had to bring him back the old school music, how he had the girl was treated in a different way, and it was kind of an aloof story, which I thought, like Treat 'Em Like a Prostitute, was very realistic of those scenarios. I also thought the Mona Lisa thing was scenario, and then the girl was called Mona Lisa, which I always thought was weird and intriguing. I liked the beat on it. I thought it was tremendous, and another one that he did, because he did half the album by himself, which is another testament to his brilliance, especially on this project. But with Mona Lisa, I just thought it showed this other creative story where it didn't have all that illicit craziness to it, but it still was this story going on that I thought was good. And anytime you can talk about eating pizza, I'm a big fan of that. So
Definitely.
Yes. What'd you think of Mona Lisa?
It was good, and just this whole album, there's no throwaways, and this is just an album that, once again, you're happy with what you got, and you always wonder what was left off the album, if there was anything left off the album. In my hand right here is actually the 30th anniversary. That's why you probably see like a sticker here. I just kept that on. But this even has some extra songs on it, some demos, and a song that I never heard called Snakes of the World Today. So, which I'm assuming was recorded in these sessions. So I think the 12 songs was great. And for my last pick, and something that you had just talked about, how Slick Rick had produced a good portion of the album, is all of my picks are produced by Slick Rick. And it's crazy because we got Jam Master Jay on a song, we got Eric Sadler, we got Hank Shockley. These are no slouches. So Slick Rick, right? Like, these are no slouches. These are some of the best producers. So the fact that his 3 of the songs he produced are my top 3 is saying something. So my last pick is Indian Girl, An Adult Story.
I know it's a theme here, Amir.
Man, I mean, dude, it's so good. So just the story, how he's talking about an Indian girl who's really a Native American, but an Indian girl, and then, Davy Crockett, and just, first of all, that's just great, and it's just funny in itself. And then, he goes and has a spaghetti that her dad made which sucked, and then they're sitting looking at the moon, and then he thinks that no means yes, so he makes an advance, and then he's doing his thing, whatever, and it gets very high, intense level in the sheets, and then ended up, she's saying some very interesting things about she's not going to be able to marry if she keeps doing what she's doing, whatever, but anyways, just the accents back and forth with him, playing Davy Crockett or whatever, and then the woman with her moans and phrases and everything she's doing, and then the vagina speaks or it yawns, and I'm like, what the? And this is kind of going back to Treat 'Em Like a Prostitute. Like, what is he saying? Like, what is that? So it's yawning, and then he has to see for himself before he leaves, and then he sees crabs and spears and Indian drums, and I was just like, what the hell is this? This is, first of all, the imagery. It's like, anytime I hear that line, I think of what he's saying, which is, it's pretty powerful that he's able to do that, number 1. Number 2, it's hilarious. Number 3, it's like, at the end of the song, he's going, hi-ya, hi-ya. It's like, just like, it's really funny. And I don't know if he's in the studio laughing as he's making this. I have no idea, but it's clever, it's great storytelling, it's impressive writing. He's playing the roles himself. I just think this song and other songs, it's just brilliance. And Indian Girl is my 3rd pick.
There you go. Well, mine is not that song, even though I love it and I would argue it's one of the best songs on the album. Mine is Hey Young World, and
That's good.
the production on it, again, a Slick Rick helmed the song by himself, but I just love the different feel of it, because you know the rest of the album has a lot of different energies on it, and of course Teenage Love has even a different energy, but sonically Hey Young World I liked because it had that you know, the little twinkles on it, and I always thought that was excellent. And then of course the themes and the story and just telling people, like, you know, keep your head up, we're gonna make it through this, and like you've gotta, you know, make the world a better place than it is, which I thought was always an interesting juxtaposition of starting the album off with Treat 'Em Like a Prostitute, and toward the end of the album, not the end is Lick the Balls, but before we get there, you have Hey Young World, where, you know, he's kind of laid out the table of this crazy world with The Moment I Feared and some of these other songs that are on here that highlight some of the darkest places of humanity. And then toward the end of the album, he's telling you how to make the world better and giving you suggestions to not disrespect your mom and all the different things that he says in there, all of which, you know, I think we all still, unfortunately, in 2020 need to adhere to, because we didn't listen to these lessons when Slick Rick was dropping them back in '88. And that, to me, is one of those songs that not only stands the test of time, but these are songs where the messages are timeless, and regardless of your background, they apply to you and they could make your life better. Mm-hmm. And anytime I hear that type of song, and Hey Young World is one of those, it just makes me feel better and makes me feel better about hopefully what the world will become in the midst of chaos. So that's my third pick. You guys got Amir's third pick. As always, please be sure to subscribe to both Unique Access Entertainment and Rappin and Snackin on YouTube. Like and share this video with as many of your friends as possible. And definitely hit us up down there in the comments, and we'll hit you back and let you know what we think of what you said in your 3 comments. But I'm Soren Baker.
Amir Rahimi.
The Great Debaters, y'all. The Great Adventures of Slick Rick. Classic material.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the DOC, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Yo MTV Raps with NWA.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the street. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.